A band fueled by confidence and a singer that's refreshingly miserable within it. The 1975 is one of the most intriguing musical groups of the past decade, with a collection of underdog anthems written by someone that's seemingly on top of the mountain. That conflict within frontman Matty Healy's songwriting has provided us with so many songs that make you feel like you're living out each of the 1975's tracks in real time, as they went from a small British band to selling out arenas around the world. Despite this band's popularity, how do they keep in touch with their roots to provide us with music that resonates with us? And what can we expect out of their next production? All of that and much more will be covered in today's video. Within interviews, Matty Healy has alluded to the fact that he considers his work as a cautionary tale of emerging technologies and how we communicate, in the context of the typical pop song topics such as love and relationships. This in itself makes the 1975 one of the most topical and culturally relevant bands today, as seemingly no obscure reference is off limits from Matty Healy's lyric notebook. We're in an era where authenticity is always on demand, but without the proper supply, we're left with news feeds full of fabricated lives and calculated risks. People ask themselves every day, will anyone like this selfie I'm about to post? Will this Instagram reel pop off or fade as soon as it's posted? Hell, I ask myself a question like this every time I hit upload here on YouTube. Will this video resonate with people as much as it resonates with me? The thing with art is that it can come in many forms, but as long as it comes from the creator's heart and it's something that they believe in, it will be appreciated for what it is. That is exactly what Matty Healy has seemingly accomplished throughout the 1975's career. Never being afraid to take risks both musically and lyrically has put himself in the position of being one of the most controversial frontmen in recent memory. The kind of publicity he has attracted for statements he's made or people he has had flings with have only fueled the 1975's fan base into wondering more about the meaning of their music. So going back to my previous statement about how their music utilizes current technologies to prop up the themes within their songs, social media is seemingly the largest driver of that. While we've all become connected and able to communicate instantaneously, we've also taken away much of our ability to isolate ourselves where we can digest a piece of news without outside influences dictating how we're supposed to feel about it. In regards to how this relates to the topic of this video is what the 1975 will do next, I think we will see Matty Healy go after the absurdity of how so much information is filtered to us based on the narratives that are currently being pushed. Now, we've seen many instances of late where social media platforms have abused their existence to further their agenda here in the United States of America. However, I don't think the 1975 being a British band will deter them from attacking this topic, as I'm certain it's a worldwide issue as well. Lyrically, there are rumors that much of the next 1975 album will have some references to Matty Healy's fling with Taylor Swift a couple of years ago. However, he seems to defer any talk of that, as he never considered anything with her to be that serious. That hasn't stopped fans from speculating about the next album having some of those themes, to which he replied to a Reddit post saying something along the lines of, "huge if true." He's always good for interjecting with some tongue-in-cheek humor to spur on a conversation which seems to stoke the fire even further. Musically, I think we see another pop type of album similar to what we heard in their latest release, 2022's Being Funny in a Foreign Language. I think while they experimented a bit in previous albums, we saw them hone in on a collection of tracks that more closely resembled something you could dance and sing along to than much of what came before it. This seemed to skyrocket the popularity of the 1975, prompting the demand for 60 arena shows on their Still at Their Very Best tour. This tour found them at their most sophisticated and tight, with an extended band to accommodate a larger sound of their music as their audiences grew. Matty Healy approached this tour with a lot of attention to detail, as everything from the set list, the aesthetic of the stage, his attire, and movements were not only calculated but also evolved throughout the duration of the tour. Within this age of social media, he knew that if he did something unique like eating raw meat on stage, for example, that idea would be circulated online, and then of course, you need to switch things up for the next show to keep fans guessing and keep the set fresh. The artistic vision of Matty Healy in the 1975 ensured that they would never stop inventing new ways to connect to their fan base, and a memorable concert experience was always the end result of that. I was fortunate to attend a November 2023 show in Indianapolis, and I walked into that show just liking the band, but I left thinking to myself that they were quite possibly one of the most important bands of our current generation. The energy within the crowd was infectious, and while at times it felt like a big party, other times it felt like a heart-to-heart with everyone else in the arena. Knowing that we were seeing something original that only we would get is something that I, as a frequent concert goer, can appreciate, as it's easy to tell when a band is executing a fresh idea and doing it to the best of their abilities. So a topic of conversation that gave many newish 1975 fans like myself some pause was the announcement of a hiatus that the band would be going on following the conclusion of their Still at Their Very Best tour in the spring of 2024. After being on tour relentlessly and putting out a steady stream of material for the past decade, it appeared that they needed to take some time to breathe and live their lives a bit. However, we now find ourselves perhaps closer to some new 1975 music than we originally thought, as they teased this picture with Matty Healy posed in the studio seemingly working on something new. I know that it could still be a little time before we ultimately get to hear anything, but it's already got me excited about seeing what this band will do next. On their last album, widely utilized pop producer Jack Antonoff was at the helm, and while Antonoff's production on the latest Taylor Swift album personally bored me to tears, his work on being funny in a foreign language was a highlight, as every track had a crispness to it that really fit the vibe of the album in general. With this being said, I was hopeful that they would still team up for their next album, however it seems that the relationship between Matty Healy and Jack Antonoff could be a bit chilly at the moment, as Jack has kind of distanced himself from acknowledging his work on being funny in a foreign language. Apparently he has also made some kind of diss about the 1975 and their tendency to utilize performance art. Not sure how this is too much of a bad thing. It just leads us to how Matty Healy has always been very intentional with the 1975's work, and also with how he has portrayed himself to be in real life. Is some of it performative and maybe not as authentic as some may like? Sure, but have we not been entertained? Despite if Matty Healy is being overly dramatic at times and performative, that aura has been firing on all cylinders throughout his career as he intentionally and carefully crafts the feeling that he wants us to feel when we listen to the 1975, and especially when we see them perform live. While what we deduce from Matty Healy's words and his actions can often be debated, it's undeniable that much of it is relatable and can resonate with the common person, even if it's coming from a famous rock star such as himself. He seemed to keep in touch with society and maintain a level of compassion within his lyrics that has never made him appear to be drifting too high off the ground. The humble stage setup of a typical home that they used in their last tour really drove that home, as we saw a modest living room be the setting for an otherwise massive production and quality. As he sings about the hurt of seeing his ex with somebody else, that's something that resonates with everyone from every walk of life, whether you are a famous musician or a normal person. At the end of the day, they're just human too, and have some of the same pitfalls that many of us experience, albeit in a more public light as Matty Healy keeps finding out. With all this being said, what I expect out of the 1975's next output is something that keeps us engaged in a creative way and challenges us to look at the way we communicate with each other online to ask ourselves if it's really the most healthy way we could live our lives. It'll be delivered with a heavy dose of symbolism without a doubt, and may even be masked under some catchy pop riffs, but we as listeners will need to be willing to read between the lines at what he's trying to get across in this current climate of everyone being super online and overly informed. So, if you have any other ideas or speculations about the next stage of the 1975's evolution, I'd love to continue this conversation down in the comments. If you made it this far into the video, first of all, I love it that you made it. But if you enjoyed this content and want to see more, click the subscribe button and like this video so we can start growing this community into a great place to talk about music. But until next time, this is Joey with Last Few Spins. Thank you for watching.